Next presentation I came to do. He was sergeant, team leader from the Littleton Police Department, SWAT team at the time. He's now since been promoted to lieutenant. Lieutenant Bill Black from the Littleton Police Department.
Thanks, Stu. Thanks everybody for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to come out here. I don't have any PowerPoint presentation with flute music, but I do have some overheads, and I got a few of the dispatch tapes I'm going to play and some information. It got to be popular for everybody to raise their hands in response to a question, so I'm going to do it right now. Has anybody's SWAT team had to change or adopt new tactics as a result of Columbine High School massacre? Okay. Yeah, it's been kind of a big impact area for a lot of SWAT teams. Let me give you a little bit about my background. I've been with the Littleton Police Department for 21 years. I've been on SWAT for 20, started out as a negotiator, worked my way up to an operator, and for about the last 9 years, I've been the coordinator, which is the same thing as commander for our SWAT team. We have a tactical team association in Colorado in the metro area, and I'm the vice president of that. And I'm also a guest instructor at Clint Smith's Thunder Ranch in Texas. There has been some concerns and some problems about Columbine. And this is not to point a finger at any one particular agency, but just to tell you that in our very litigious society, it's very difficult to talk about an incident right after it has occurred. This may come as a shock to you, but there has been no tactical debriefing of the Columbine High School incident. Although Columbine High School is basically in the Denver metro area, it's basically right down here. This is the Denver downtown metro area right here. Columbine High School is located right here. This is the city of Littleton where I work. And the Denver metro area has a whole lot of different municipalities around it, as well as the unincorporated areas, the counties of Boulder, Arapahoe, and Jefferson County. Jefferson County basically comprises the west side of the metro area. Arapahoe County has basically the south central part and goes pretty far east. Denver City and County is one and the same, and Adams County is basically north and east, and this is the People's Republic of Boulder right up around in here. We also have a very large county here, Douglas County. Although it has a Littleton mailing address, Columbine High School is basically located in unincorporated Jefferson County. They were the lead agency there. There were 5 tactical teams that responded. There was the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department, the Littleton Police Department, the Denver Police Department, the Lakewood Police Department, and the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Department. The unique thing about Columbine, since we haven't really had a tactical debriefing on it, is it's sort of like the old adage of the blind men who went into the room where there was an elephant. And each one went in and they touched a different part of the elephant. And the problem is they each had a different perspective of what sort of animal it was. One who touched the trunk thought it was a snake. One who touched the tusk thought it was some sort of a cow. One who touched the tail thought it was a very large pig. But none of them touched the whole animal, and they didn't really have an idea of what occurred. And I think that's the problem we're having right now. There's an excellent presentation that the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department has done. Some of you may have been privy to it. Some of the information I have, and I'm going to supply today, is from that investigation. But there has been such a media frenzy about this case. There's a lot of controversial things. And my fault, their fault, nobody's fault. Some things were released when they shouldn't have been, or somebody thought they weren't, but the media has jumped all over it. And you can imagine that the agencies are very reluctant to talk about things that they did wrong. And I have not talked about Columbine before. I would not allow my SWAT team to be on any TV interviews. My philosophy and our department's philosophy is after an operation, SWAT operators are neither seen nor heard. That's why God made public information officers. So they deal with that. So this is the first time I've really talked about it. And if it's kind of rough on the edges, I'd like to apologize in advance. The perspective I'm coming from is my perspective, the Littleton Police Department's perspective. Everything you hear will be from the Littleton Police Department's dispatch tapes on the scene. And it will also be from public information and information that's been released to police departments only by the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. I, like Chuck before me, do not like to talk to anybody but police officers about operational things. So that's why I kind of limited myself in talking about Columbine, and was happy to get the opportunity to talk about Columbine in front of a group such as yourselves. Columbine High School, located in unincorporated Jefferson County, 1,945 students, 20 teachers, 250,000 square feet. Start thinking in your mind and your tactical planning right now. 75 rooms, 25 exterior doors, 600 interior spaces to be searched that could potentially have somebody inside them. On the edge of each row, there should be enough copies of a timeline. I'd like you to grab those and pass them down. This is a timeline I'm going to be referring to about when some information has occurred. It's not exact insofar as some tapes of one agency do not exactly correspond with others, but they're fairly close. April 20, 1999, at 11:21, there were diversionary explosions basically near the intersection of Wadsworth and Kincarroll Avenue. What Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold had done, they were very, very tactically savvy. Technically, they were a couple of idiots, as you will see when we go over some of the bombs and how they were designed. But they were tactically very savvy. They figured, we'll have a diversionary device. We'll have it set about 2 miles south of the school. We'll set it up. That'll draw the police and fire to that location. So what they did along the side of the road, they set a couple of backpack devices, improvised explosionary devices. What they did is set them by the side of the road. The road crew came by, looked at them, picked them up, threw one off to the side. There was a bike path down along the side of the road. Picked up the second one, threw that down on the bike path, except it went off. It went off, pretty good explosion, started a fence and some grass on fire. Well, the highway crew didn't think this was right, so they called the sheriff's department, and they called the fire department, and they went out there. Only one of these devices went off. At 11:24, 3 minutes later, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department school resource officer has a gun battle with the suspects. He's told by a student that two people are shooting students outside of the school. He goes around there and is immediately confronted by gunfire. He has a pretty extensive gun battle. One of the motor officers from Jefferson County shows up. Of course, they call for the cavalry on their channel. The school resource officer doesn't hit either of the suspects, but does happen to hit one of the magazines that's in one of the suspect's gun, causes it to be inoperative. Of the two perpetrators, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, these are the only two that Jefferson County has any evidence that contributed or played a part into the Columbine High School massacre. The two of them shot a total of 188 rounds. Harris fired 25 shotgun and 96 9mm rounds. Bold shot 12 shotgun and 55 9mm rounds. At 11:27, right here in the library, a teacher makes a 911 call to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. The gunfire and the explosions are going off in the hallways and also in the cafeteria area just below it. This is the upper floor, and this is the lower floor right here. Disregard where these are because this proved to be wrong. And this came out of the newspaper, so it's what you have to expect. She is under fire during her 911 tape. The phone is dropped. She goes under a desk. She stays there for the entire time until she's rescued. She's there for the entire executions that take place in the library. At 11:28, these smoke detectors are activated. Our fire department, the Littleton Fire Department, and it's a fire protection district. It's larger than the city of Littleton. They have a way to track with a log when smoke detectors go off. So they are theorizing, and the smoke detectors are going from the lower floor to the upper floor. They are able to basically retrace Harris and Klebold as they're setting off these improvised explosive devices. At about 11:29, the suspects enter the library. At 11:30, now mind you, the school resource officer and the motor officer have been in a pretty lengthy gun battle with the two suspects. They have retreated inside the school, and they shoot from the windows out. They don't really get clear views of them, but they're receiving gunfire from inside the school. Some Denver Police Department officers arrive. These are not SWAT officers. Two of them happen to be gang officers. This is on a contiguous border with Denver. There's also a couple of District 4 Denver officers, one sergeant in particular. They start in the gun battle also with the school resource officer. So there's a pretty good gun battle going on. One of the Jefferson County lieutenants, Lieutenant Manwaring, also comes from his mountain patrol, drops down at the Columbine. He's armed with an MP5, and he's also in the gunfight. The two Denver officers are armed with AR-15s. Denver has just gone to a patrol rifle program. They've adopted the Colt 6530 rifles for officers who've been through a week-long school. These two officers just got finished with that school a month or two before. Very heroic officers. One of the officers, they didn't fire a whole lot of rounds. I think between them, they fired about 7 or 8 AR rounds. One of them was dragging one of the injured students that was shot pretty badly, and I think she later died. He had gone to the base of the cafeteria, was dragging her away when one of the suspects starts shooting from up in the library. And he's got a gal in one hand, he's got the AR in the other, and he shoots what he thought was a couple of rounds, ended up being about 4 rounds up into the library. But he was able to get her pulled to safety, and I believe she later died. When the two Denver police officers arrived, the two Jefferson County officers are down to about 8 rounds each. At 11:33, a mutual aid request is made metro-wide. Guys hear that okay?
You copy that clear. County is airing to all agencies. We have 2 more subjects inside the school armed with multiple bombs, and they are sending them off in the schools. At this time, that's all the further they have. Hey, sir, the only thing I can update you further is that Denver's got anywhere between 8 to 10 officers en route. Sheridan has 2. Inglewood's got several going that way also. And I'm sure Lakewood's also at 50.
This became a problem. A area-wide mutual aid request resulted in over 900 police officers from 28 agencies responding. Okay. Put that into your tactical plan. Many of the cops who arrived, and God bless them, I'm glad they showed up. A lot of them arrived in personally owned vehicles. And so the area around Columbine High School, and particularly the main feeder highway, which is a pretty busy street called Bowles Avenue that runs right in front of Clement Park, became totally gridlocked. There were cars parked in the middle of the street. SWAT officers who showed up in patrol cars couldn't get to the main location, so the cars were just abandoned and they got out. It looked like something out of Desert Storm at that highway leading to Basra, except things weren't on fire at that time. Between 11:32 and 11:39 is when the shootings take place in the library. 10 are killed, 15 injured. No other students or teachers are killed or injured at Columbine after 11:39. This is from the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department investigation. All the shooting took place. We know that from interviews. We also know that from the audio tape of the phone that was left hanging where you can hear the executions taking place. Now, the big buzzword right now among SWAT teams is dealing with active shooters. This is just anecdotal and it just represents what we found out at Columbine. But basically, from the time this started to the time they were executed was 15 minutes, a very, very short time. 9:44, the suspects entered the cafeteria. And this is the videotapes that a lot of you have seen of the 2 suspects moving around in the cafeteria area. They had placed 2 devices, and I'll show you the pictures of them later, right in the center of the cafeteria. There were up to 600 students in that cafeteria commons area at the time this took place. And as I said, they were very tactically savvy. Harris would sit in the cafeteria and he would take notes at the times of the day when we had the most students in there. He expected these backpack devices to go off and kill a lot of students in the cafeteria. But his technical expertise was not very good, and they never did go off. They kind of fizzled, caused a little bit of a fire, but they never did actively go off. And the problem is a lot of students, even after this started, remained in the cafeteria area. They didn't leave the cafeteria area. Their perceptions were, and these were all glass windows right here, that they were being attacked from the outside as well as Harris and Klebold attacking from the inside. So what they basically did was move to the far side of the cafeteria, and they stayed there. We had 56 people in the library during the time that the shootings took place. 42 later escaped. And the interviews of the people that were there said that Harris and Klebold would shoot someone, they would walk around, talk a little bit, load magazines, shoot somebody else, walk around, shoot. So they talk and shoot. It was totally indiscriminate on who they shot and who they didn't shoot. The media's made a big thing about the racial issue, and I don't know, I'm not inside their brain, I don't know. But from the witnesses, there was a wide range of people that they would shoot and a wide range of people that they didn't shoot. They were totally indiscriminate. Hard to figure out why they shot some and ignored others. 11:45, we started getting investigators arriving on scene from the various police agencies. We had a lot of detectives already in cars. They were already out. They were coming from their PDs. And at 11:48, that's when my tactical team was paged out.
Number 2 to Lincoln. SWAT team and they also negotiators help in the command. Lincoln copy be able to play the SWAT team at 11:48. 11:40. Lincoln 2, at this point in time, we will send a page. Do you want them to come here first, or do you want them to go straight to the command post? Lincoln 1, let you know. Okay, Lincoln 1, we're going to page them out now first. Okay, sir. To headquarters at 11:45.
At 11:49, we also had the sprinklers go off in the cafeteria commons area. From the bomb techs that have analyzed this and the fire personnel, has anybody here seen the EOD presentation on this done by Rick Young from the Littleton Fire Department? If you get a chance, it's an outstanding presentation. What Rick says is that these bombs started small fires in here. They had a sprinkler system above the areas, the tables, and had a fire started someplace else in the school, say over down toward the office area or in one of the upper areas, what would have happened the way that system was designed is the sprinkler system would have left all its water right here, would have been overpowered, and the school would have caught fire other places, and they wouldn't have had any fire suppression to put that out unless firefighters came, and they're not going to come when Harris and Klebold are shooting at them. So that was part of their tactical design. They wanted to start a fire inside the school, have an inferno, theorized that they were waiting outside, wanted to shoot the students as they were coming outside as the bombs were going off. But what happened is the bombs didn't go off as they planned. That's when they fought their way inside the school and started shooting people inside the school. At about 11:46, we had on-duty Littleton Police Department SWAT officers, Sergeant Parker, Greg Boland, Daphne Baca, Mike Wood, and Chet Neal. They arrive on scene. Two of these officers were negotiators. And we use a Tactical Operations Center, a TOC. And a lot of people look at these SWAT operations and they say, you know, you got to get the guys in the demons of darkness with the guns, and you got to get them on scene real quick, and you got to get them deployed and do things. It is critical if you are commanding one of these operations, if you should be so unlucky to have to do another one of these, is that you get your Tactical Operations Center set up as soon as you can and start collecting that information. That's one of the things that was critical to Columbine. These officers, because they train that way, they set up right in Clement Park. They had easels and some paper with them, and they just started copying down all the information. Because the problem is that information is coming out. A lot of it's real good information. And if you don't collect it, somebody's not right there to copy that information down. It's gone. It is gone. And it's going to be very difficult to retrieve that information later on. Those of you in the military, this is euphemistically called the fog of war, is it not? Okay. Well, this helps clear some of that fog if you have people who are copying down information as it is coming in. At 11:55 to about 12:15, there's the ad hoc SWAT team from Littleton Police Department. There were 2 officers, 2 Jefferson County Sheriff's Department officers, and a couple of Denver officers who make entry and they rescue students on the west side of the school. Now, this is the team that most everybody saw right at the early stages, moving up behind a fire truck. Yeah, let me put it this way. A little bit easier. And basically, the Clement Park area was right over here, and they came up to this location with the fire truck. 2 of the officers were our SWAT officers, and we require our SWAT officers, since we're not a big department, we require them to carry all their equipment with them when they're patrolling, and we try to spread them out over all the shifts so we at least have some tactical asset available. Our feeling is it's better to have some tactical assets available than none at all. And so they all had their rifles, they had protective shields, they had other equipment, they had ballistic helmets, things that they could go with. And they donned their BDUs fairly quickly into this. So that's why you see 2 guys in camo with shields and rifles. Then you see a couple of guys in patrol uniforms. Those were the deputies. And then you see 1 guy, I think, in shorts and a T-shirt. That was one of the Denver officers whose son happens to go to school there. He lived very close by. God love him, he responded. And another Denver officer who was also a resident of the area, he responded in plain clothes. So they all had tactical training. They were from different agencies, but you know, you go with what you got. You choose sides and you go in, and that's what they did. They put together a very hasty rescue between this 11:55 and 12:15 area, grabbed the fire truck, put a deputy driving it, drove the fire truck right here. This is the entrance of the school. They offloaded a team, and a team immediately approached and got in the school from this location. Immediately got in from this location. At 11:54 to 12:05, the suspects were going back and forth from the lower commons cafeteria level to the library. The suspects were last seen on videotape going from the commons area or cafeteria to the library at 12:05. This is speculation by Jefferson County Sheriff's Department, speculation by some of the investigators on the scene, that very close to that 12:05 time is when Harris and Klebold committed suicide. Okay. No one was shot at after that time that they can confirm. As I said, no one was shot or injured after 11:39. So it is believed, since we don't have a video camera up there, but we do have the open phone, that all the shooting and the suicides took place right about 12:05. Speculation also is, and this just makes us look good, I don't know if it's right or not, this is the office area right up here. I'll play in a moment that we get a call that there's a hostage situation that has occurred here in the office area. There was also, when I went into the school, there were explosive devices down these hallways where they had thrown what they call crickets, and I'll show you what those are here in a moment. But speculation is, when they saw the cavalry coming behind that fire truck and officers deployed around the fire truck, they left this area, went over to the library area, and ended up committing suicide in here. 11:55, they transported the first victim from the scene. 12 o'clock, a medical triage is established for the wounded. We had a lot of trouble getting ambulances in. As I said, it was just a traffic nightmare. You couldn't have free access with fire trucks in and out. We brought in as many medical helicopters as we could. We set up 4 triage areas around the school. They treated 160 people for various injuries, everything from shrapnel to very serious wounds. They transported 24. At 12:02, a Littleton fire truck, 2 of them actually, Rescue 11 and 12, had responded over here, driven down here, and responded to assist some students who were down and shot. These guys just walked up, rescued these students and they were under gunfire. I had been trying, my team had been trying, and I'm going to try and relate this to what Josh was talking about earlier, the importance of having tactical paramedics on your team. We were in the minority. I think what he said was about 80% of the teams now have some sort of medical resource attached to your team. We did not. We have been trying and trying. No, overtime's a problem. We don't have any firefighters that are interested in it. That was bullshit. For whatever reason, the commander said we can't have them. Okay. After Columbine, we now have 15 tactical paramedics who are CONTOMS trained assigned to our team. So there you go, a little bit of an example of crisis management.
Where are they from?
Littleton Fire Department. We got some guys into the CONTOMS class. All of a sudden, you know, the department's crapping money to equip these guys and gals. And, you know, we got what we wanted. Problem is, it was just a little too late. And thank God that we didn't have a firefighter killed or injured because they had no protection at all when they went up and were rescuing students under fire. 1213 Littleton Dispatch advises that they are on the phone with Columbine High School front desk and there is a hostage situation in the office.
Right now, go right there and bring them into the location, look at that spot. Here's the way we're just bring them there. We're getting ready to set something. We're going to go ahead and do it. You know what? Yeah. So we get back, it's better. They're moving up on the cover of a fire truck right now. Multiple victims. Wait, you know what? So we were on the phone with the Columbine High School front desk and we got hostage situation in the office. Okay. So on number 2. For the last page, copy that. Command 3. Bernie, you have someone at the front desk of the high school? Yes, sir. So we were transferred to call. We had a party inside Columbine High School on the phone advising they have a hostage situation. Repeat, hostage situation in the office. We'll have them on air. Negative, we lost contact. Yep. Officer up there. Yeah. Put the order. Look. Yeah, way up to where you are now. So we have this sort of question talking about. For the goal of things to be accomplished. Nice. Cover here and come
There we got people in the window. They want to hear.
Those are fire alarms going off in the school. Somebody inside there talking to something to a now we've got so much you're going to make a stop and get reinforcement in there. You got way too big a mouth for the job. Can't hear you right now. Try later. Go ahead. We have another kid. No, we've got a kid outside on the south that's downstairs. But yeah, when the older kids is actually in the building. Okay. I didn't know more rivals outside that are hiding, and we're going to get them out, but I don't think from Syria, I think outside. Those alarms, fire alarms inside the school stayed on until 1600 hours. Couldn't get them off. We tried everything. Can't confirm it. I'm sure somebody probably tried to shoot them. Okay. We turned off the power. We couldn't get the power to go off. These things are redundant systems and they go forever. As if somebody wouldn't run out after they heard that for about 10 minutes. But this stayed on the entire time those teams were clearing inside that school. A lot of people in their active shooter scenarios, when they're training for this, which is very good, I think it's a direction we probably need to look at. But try to figure out where gunfire is taking place inside a school if you're coming from the outside and plus you have all the other distractions of the fire alarms going off throughout the entire school. It's very difficult. Let me talk a little bit about my arrival on scene, what I saw. It was very, very chaotic. As I mentioned, we had parking problems. We had 4 command posts set up. We had the original one that was set up in the park, was outside. Then everybody, the larger departments, started bringing their command vehicles in. Denver Police Department had their big bus. Jefferson County Sheriff's Department had theirs. Arapahoe County Sheriff's Department had theirs. So we basically had a little bit of difficulty getting the information, and we had to have one central place that we could use as a command post. The others were real nice because it was a good place to go and take a pee. Well, we had a real hard time identifying one specific command post. I had deployed with a rifle. As I came from my house, I had just finished working out, put on some civilian clothes and a raid jacket, and I showed up with my bolt gun. I figured, well, you know, I didn't know who was going to be there. This was an active situation going on. And the unfortunate thing about making rank is that you realize all of a sudden that you can no longer go out and be an operator. So I'm an old fart, okay? And I get there and you see things are going crazy, and I'm sure other sergeants and lieutenants and captains and underwear sheriffs and everybody else decided, you know, this is a really serious problem that we have to put some order to. That one little guy on my shoulder said, let's run in there, engage the bad guys. The other one said, wait a minute, that's not your job anymore. You got to stay there and see if you can help out and put this thing together. I happen to know a guy from a lot of training, and that's why these courses are so important and networking so important. A guy by the name of Dave Welcher, who had just made lieutenant. He was a watch commander for Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. How'd you like to make lieutenant one week, and the next week you got Columbine dumped in your lap to be the incident commander? I had known him from a lot of SWAT classes and stuff together, from crawling in the mud and shooting and person instructors and stuff. And I came up to him, asked him if he needed some help. He said, yeah. And he needed somebody to help deploy the police officers and the SWAT teams that were arriving. And that was basically my function inside the command post, was to deploy the tactical teams. I also acted as my department's representative during the situation. The other officer that you hear, Lincoln One, who's a sergeant in my police department now, he's a lieutenant. We had moved the command post or the staging area for the SWAT teams as far away from the command post as we possibly could, to keep them out of the view of the media, and also give them a place where they could make tactical plans and get them out of the chaos. That seemed to work really, really well. What we were faced with on arrival, what I got in the first 5 minutes was I was told there were 6 to 8 shooters. We had snipers on the roof. We had bombs going off. We also feared that there were secondary devices there. Hostages had been taken. We had students escaping from the 25 doors that are around the school. We had an EMS response that was incredibly complex. And then fire started in the school. We haven't run yet. Evacuation was a concern. Containment was a real big concern. We had every parent of every student, every grandfather, uncle, aunt, brother, sister, friend showing up at the school, because it was on every news media in the Denver metropolitan area, and nationwide for that matter, as we were able to find out. We had arriving media. Denver, like any other big city, it's a pretty big media market. What with the sports that we have there, we got a couple of newspapers and like half a dozen news channels, and they were all there trying to vie for the best footage. This became a problem. Traffic, as I mentioned. We also found out early on in the first few minutes that the suspects' homes probably had explosive devices at the suspects' homes. It was real difficult to manage responders. The dynamics of this situation were constantly changing. And to add on top of that, we were getting a large number of bogus calls that said that they were coming from the school, and I was trapped here and somebody was shot here. And you had to take personnel and you had to take people and you had to dedicate some assets to that. And you know, when you have these responding police officers show up, it would be different. And I know some of you are from very large departments. If you had 150 guys from one department show up and you had a captain or an under chief or somebody to talk to and say, look, this is what we need your people to do. But we had, 5 and 6 guys show up. We had 2 or 3 guys from one SWAT team and 2 or 3 guys from another SWAT team, and the lieutenant hadn't arrived yet, the sergeant hadn't arrived yet. And so it was really hard to coordinate all of these assets that were coming in. 12/13, we had numerous reports of teachers and students hiding in various locations of the school. As I said, we had 75 rooms up there. We had to check out every room. This is the actual map that we got. Yeah, later on, we got a great big map that said where everything was, but this was the only map that we had early on in the problem, that we had to go inside and check in the school. And my department, since it's not in our jurisdiction, wasn't familiar with some of these areas, and the people who intimately knew this school were not. This is something that you might want to work out in your pre-planning, and I'm sure you already have thought of that. We had 6 students and 1 teacher that had secreted themselves in the ceiling of the school. And we had to find them later on. At 12/22, a request is made for an explosives robot. Denver is the only department. Their bomb squad is the only one that has an explosives robot. It's one of those that goes in with a little camera and can shoot stuff and does all the other stuff. One of the lessons that we've learned as far as EOD on Columbine is the fact that you really do have to have some liaison from your EOD assets in the command post. And it's a good idea if we would have gotten somebody hooked up with the tactical teams from EOD, because the tactical teams that were going through there, there was like going through a minefield. There were all sorts of explosive devices. Some of them may not have had the level of sophistication that an EOD technician would have, that says, yeah, we can go buy that, or no, this is a really dangerous area, you want to stay away from that. So one of the things we're working out in the metro area is to try to get a better liaison with the EOD technicians from the different bomb squads. The South Metro area of Arapahoe County and Jefferson County and Douglas County, they have a South Metro bomb squad with the local fire departments that work together. And we're going to try to spend a little bit more time working together. We had a total of 10 EOD sites. We had one at the building exterior, 2 of them actually, the library, cafeteria. Harris and Klebold, both of their vehicles were filled with explosives. The building corridors had explosive devices in them. Both of the suspects' houses, and the 2 diversionary devices that I talked about early on. Here is the summary of the devices. We had 7 incendiary devices, 40+ gallons of flammable liquid in those. They made their own propane, or made their own napalm by mixing detergent and gasoline together. There were 27 pipe bombs, 48 CO2 bombs that they call crickets, and I'll have some close-ups of those. 11 1.5 gallon propane containers that were rigged to explode. 2 duffel bag bombs with 20 pounds of LPG gas tanks. Okay. Now, I don't know how to rig a bomb, and I don't want to. I want to stay away from that stuff. But the bomb tech there who put these together told me that the 20-gallon LPG bombs were wired to go off with rocket fuses, and they had them set with just a standard alarm clock with the little bells on the top. And supposedly they were wired to when the clock went off and the striker hit the bell and made a connection, that they would go off. They would have, had those guys not skimped on money, gone to Walmart, bought 2 of those clocks that looked like they were metal, but actually were plastic painted to look like metal. So they never did make a contact and they never did go off. In some of the videos, you've seen them trying to shoot at those things to make them go off. They just didn't go off. Those have been extremely deadly had either one of those gone off. There were about 65 explosive devices in the school. About half of them went off, and only 3 of them were considered to be high-order explosives. And as I keep emphasizing, they were tactically savvy. Technically, they weren't very good. They made the explosive devices with firecracker powder, okay, which basically turned some of them just into really neat Roman candles. Some of them went off, some of them didn't. Had they used black powder, we'd have gone to a lot of police officers' funerals. This is the lower entrance to the cafeteria. Move this down a little bit. So as the teams made entry down here, I think it was Jefferson County and Denver made entry down here. There was a LPG bomb by the door that had gone off. You can see right up here that it was wrapped. These are nails, and that's buckshot that's wrapped around this with duct tape. This is one of the pipe bombs that they used. Like I said, had they used black powder in here instead of firecracker powder, they'd been really bad. A lot of times, some of them did go high order, but most of them, the end cap just blew off and they just shot out a bunch of sparks. How these are configured is that these are what they call strike anywhere matches. And they have rocket fuse going down into this area where the powder is on the pipe bomb. And it was designed to rub the strike anywhere matches on any type of surface where they could get enough friction. They would strike, it would burn down to the rocket fuse, would hit the powder, and the thing would go off. Harris and Klebold had taken and put sandpaper on their clothes, super glued sandpaper on their clothes, so they could take these things, strike them, and throw them. The problem that the EOD people said that they had with these devices is some of them would light, the fuse would burn down, but they wouldn't go off. And they said they were extremely unstable at this point. And they did have one incident where they were loading some explosive devices in the big bomb trailer thing, and one of those devices went off. Got pretty exciting. These are the CO2 devices, small CO2 devices right here that they call crickets. They had a bunch of these on them. They threw these like the grenades. They'd rub the strike anywhere matches on their clothing or on the side of the wall. These are all nails right here, and they would throw them. About half of them worked. This is either Harris or Klebold's feet. I don't know which one. This is that high point 9mm carbine. And when the paramedics went in, SWAT teams went in, they found these bombs around the body. One body had 6 of them on it. So this became a real crime scene problem. You know, you couldn't go in there and get the bodies out until you went in and got the school safe. So it was a couple of days before the bomb techs were able to go in there, render the school safe, where the detectives could come in and do the forensic things that they needed to do on the bodies. Fuse burned out on this one, makes it very unstable. Some of them that they did move caused detonation. This is a can of gas with an explosive device taped to it, didn't go off. This is one that went off right at the exit of the library door where 26 kids were escaping. This is the bomb that was set on the backpack bomb that was set on the center of the table. Pretty good size pipe bomb right here. Partial detonation here. Thing about this, when it blew the end caps off, it usually was embedded someplace in the wall. You can see all the fire. This is the cafeteria area right here. This is where the first fires were started. These are their vehicles, pipe bombs, napalm, pipe bombs outside of their vehicles. Probably dropped it going in. This is what they took out of their two vehicles. Those red containers, apparently it was about 48 gallons of homemade napalm, propane canisters, the small 1.5 gallon propane canisters, and some other unknown type of flammable liquid. This was what was in their cars. They had one girl that they brought out to the triage area, had 9 wounds in her. They thought she'd been shot. She had 9 different frag wounds in her from the nails and the ball bearings that went into her body. 1239, tactical team staging area is set up away from the CP, as I said. All arriving SWAT officers, we have them respond there. We had essentially 5 agencies. 2 agencies could talk together. They had a common radio frequency. 1 agency's radios went completely out. The other 2 agencies were on frequencies that couldn't talk back and forth. A lot of people made a big deal about, well, you couldn't communicate. Actually, we were able to solve it pretty easily. At the staging area where the SWAT teams were, we got a representative, usually a command type person of their SWAT team, to each location. We had them there with their department radio and frequency so they could direct their team in the presence of the other SWAT commanders. So all of the SWAT commanders basically knew what the other teams were, but they just didn't talk with one another. We also had a problem with the desensitization of our 800 megahertz system because of the close proximity, and I'm not a technical guy, so I don't know, but they say when you get this many 800 radios together, different frequencies and different trunking systems, that they have a tendency to desensitize one another, so the radio communication didn't work very well. Also, those satellite dishes that the TVs have, they have a tendency to interfere with those as well. And the cell phones, the large number of cell phones they had, pretty much jammed everything up. About 12:40, the rest of the Littleton Police Department SWAT team arrives. Tell you what, it's after lunch. Everybody probably needs to take a little bit of a break. Let's stop it right here. What we'll do is we'll come back. If we could come back in 10 minutes, let's make it 10 after 4. Come back here, listen to some more radio tapes. I have one of our snipers that was on the perimeter. I'm going to have him give his perspective, and then we're going to open it up to any questions that you might have. So let's try and be back here at about 10 after 4, if you would, please. Thank you. For any questions that you might have, and trust me, I'm prepared to answer anything except talking about my mother and my sister.
Thanks, Bill. My name's John Dugan. I'm a sergeant with the Littleton Police Department. I've been on the Littleton Police Department SWAT team for about 10 years now, and I've been performing the capacity of sniper for about 8 of those. Bill asked me to talk about my involvement in Columbine from a little more personal perspective, and I thought it was probably a good idea. You know, as snipers, we get somewhat caught up in our own little world as snipers, and we get into our routines and how we respond and so on and so forth. And I thought from my standpoint, this one was a little different, and I'll kind of go through the sequence of events for you. I was off duty the day of the call. We have a part-time SWAT team. I was on my day off. I got the page about 11:50 a.m. that morning. I was about half a mile from Columbine High School when I got the page. However, I didn't know that there was an incident at Columbine High School. I was called to assist Jefferson County Sheriff's Department on a critical incident. I was asked to respond to an intersection of Leawood and Pierce, which is directly across the street from Columbine High School, but I hadn't made the association with Columbine. Here we go. Okay. All right. You know, that's not the best quality, but the intersection of Leawood and Pierce is about right here. The area of Bowles Avenue is up here. If you look, and from a sniper standpoint, it's always nice when everything faces north and west and east and south. However, north is actually in this direction. This street here, South Pierce Street, actually runs north and south. So you can see the school doesn't really sit in a north-south manner. It does become confusing when people start talking about them coming out the southeast corner, okay? We had some problems with that going through dispatch. Southeast corner is probably here. However, information we had in one of the calls that came in dispatch, when they were talking, the students were calling on cell phones, they were saying southeast corner, they were referring to here. So you can see some of those problems. I'll backtrack a little bit. Anyway, I got the call. I was about 2 miles from my home, and as it happened, as it was, my gear bag was at home. I think my AR-15 was home because I recently shot it. And when I deployed, generally I deploy with my .308 bolt gun, but I also like to have my AR-15 in case I'm called to assist on the inner perimeter or around entries. So I drove home. Well, on my way home, which I live down about here, south of the school, about 2 miles, in an area called Columbine Hills, I noticed a lot of Jefferson County Sheriff's Department cars running code-free lights and sirens southbound away from Columbine High School down toward my neck of the woods. And again, I had no idea there was an incident at Columbine High School at this point. I got to my residence, and one of my next door neighbor came running out and asked me if I'd heard what happened, and I said, no, I didn't hear what happened. He said, well, 2 doors down from you, there was a bomb that went off, and there was a fence on fire, and the fire department's out there putting out a fire. And I thought, okay, well, that's why Jefferson County was running south on but I told him I got to go. I was at home for 2 minutes, and I grabbed my stuff and headed off to the police department to gear up. Police department's about 7 miles from my house. So I'm running there, probably adhering to all the speed limits and red lights and everything. Anyway, so I'm flying there, and I get a page to my girlfriend. So I call it back, and it's a 911 page, which is kind of unusual. So I call her back on my cell phone on the way to the police department, and she asked me, what are you doing? And I said, I'm going to a SWAT call. And she says, have you heard about what happened at Columbine High School? I said, no, I haven't. So she said, well, the media says that there's some bombs going off, and there's a bunch of students that are being shot and or are killed, and that's what's being put over the television right now. Well, my heart started to flutter a little bit because my daughter's a student there. She's a senior there, and she's was going to college part-time, however, as a senior, but she had just gotten to school, would have gotten to school about 11 o'clock that morning, and she would have been in choir at the time. The choir room, without looking at the other map, if this is the main entrance, the choir room's about right there. Okay, this is the library, cafeteria, science wing, main entrance on the Pierce Street side, teacher, faculty parking lot, student parking lots over here. So I immediately paged my daughter. She has a pager with her, paged her 911, no response. Paged her again, 911, to call me on my mobile, no response. I got to the police department. I geared up. I was getting information. I was getting debriefed from one of our sergeants at that time that there were numerous casualties at the school. We had a number of officers on scene, and they needed me to expedite for a rifle. In fact, I think I got another page that to be prepared for a rifle problem. I believe that came in through Lieutenant Black. Anyway, so, you know, frankly, I was at the police department 5 to 10 minutes, grabbing my gear, my rifle, making sure I have enough ammunition, and a little bit panicky because I didn't know the status of my daughter. She hadn't called me back. Gearing up, I jump in the car with one of our sergeants, and we take off there, code 3. I usually take my own vehicle on those type of problems and roll up and park. He said I wouldn't have any chance of getting close to the school in my personal vehicle, so we needed to go lights and siren and fly there. He nearly killed me on the way twice. So anyway, on my way there, got a page from my daughter, 911, that she, from her mother's house. I was able to speak with her on the way. She was very upset, obviously, had told me that there was gunfire in the school. The choir director ushered the kids from the choir room out the main hallway this way, and she ran this way down towards Pierce and was able to make a phone call to her mother to come pick her up. So I knew she was safe. However, she was very upset that a lot of her friends were still trapped in the school, especially some of her close friends who weren't able to get out this way and had ran the other direction and had secreted themselves in a choir room. No, I'm not even going to put it up. A choir room office. There were about 30 kids that secreted themselves in a choir room office. It was really they call it an office. It's really no bigger than a walk-in closet. So I knew my daughter was okay, and I'm responding there. Sergeant Tardy's briefing me as best he can on what we got, suspects, descriptions, where last known shooters were, if any. At that time, I think Sergeant Tardy told me there could be 4 up to 6 suspects wearing black trench coats. Some real brief descriptions. I don't think he had the incomplete suspect description at that time anyway. When I got into the area, we came in on Bowles Avenue, which is up here. This entire road here was completely blocked, and Bowles Avenue was completely blocked. We actually drove on the wrong side of the street for about a half a mile in this direction towards South Pierce Street because the westbound lanes of Bowles Avenue were completely shut down with abandoned vehicles, fire trucks, police cars, personal vehicles, etc. So I got out. To give you an idea of the chaos, like Lieutenant Black talked about, there were hundreds of civilians running around, media, parents, as you can imagine, law enforcement, fire department, SWAT teams, you name it. And there was, I could barely get out of the patrol car I was in and get the doors open and get the back doors open so I could get my rifle out. I had to push people away literally to get my stuff. Now that's a lot different manner of deploying than I'm used to. Okay, I'm used to, sneaking up on the scene and hiking in and stalking and all that stuff. Well, that all goes out the window. Okay. So I was able to get my my gear, and I met up with the team down in about this area where they were staged by I think there was a fire truck, an ambulance or something up in here, and had information that my team was also up here. So I met up with them, and then I ended up positioning myself about right there. About 75 yards from the front door. Recently went through the operational tactics police sniper school that would have been the winter sniper school, January of '99. And so one of the good things out of many that we learned in that school was the concept of position versus, the old concept of instead of north, south, east, west, SWAT teams go to side 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that still works good, but there's another one, I don't know if you're familiar with it, where you determine a side 1, and then you take a clock, and you drop it right down on the roof of the facility. Okay, so if I'm over here on the main entrance, which is usually considered side 1, I would be on the 6 o'clock. Okay, so I was 6 at 75. So when you call in a position, you give, I said Dugan 6 at 75. Everybody knows I'm on side 1, 6 o'clock, 75 yards. That way, if someone else is monitoring our radio traffic, they're not going to know where you were. I know through talking to other SWAT officers from other teams and from my personal observations that I was able to see I had another SWAT sniper on a rooftop right there, which would have put him about 150 yards from the main entrance. There were 2 SWAT snipers on rooftops here and here. This is the entrance where Klebold and Harris went into the cafeteria. That was about 180 yards from this entrance. So I had 2, 1, myself 4. There were 2 other snipers up on the side 2, okay, of the school up in this area in the park. They were probably about 50 to 75 yards, hunkered down behind a tree. One had an AR-15. I think they both were equipped with AR-15s, kind of the scout sniper team. And I know of at least one other sniper that was on this side of the school. I don't know of any others. Like Lieutenant Black mentioned, we'd never had a debrief. So, and I learned when, after the agency that completed their investigation, they were not aware of me or this other sniper here. And that's the problem you run into when you don't debrief these things, is you really can't do a thorough investigation until you talk to all the teams that are there. So hopefully someday down the road, when we're not so concerned with being sued, we can get together and discuss those things. I talked a little bit about the chaos. The other problem for snipers especially, in addition to the radio communications problems, there was a lot of noise. Now, I was on the outside of the school, so I wasn't privy to the lovely fire alarm that was deafening inside. However, the helicopter, there were 2 media helicopters hovering right above the school, very low. And in fact, one was right above me, it seemed like most of the time, and completely would drown out my radio traffic, causing me to turn up my headset almost all the way, which got to be real annoying and uncomfortable. So that was a problem. And then from there, all I did was, what we're supposed to do is gather intelligence, pass on to the teams what information we can. Our team went in and worked with another team and cleared a lot of this area on the second floor, the upper level. It's actually, this is considered second floor, but you actually walk around level up here. This is a hill, okay? And so I provided cover, rifle cover, long range rifle cover for all the evacuations that came out of this entrance right here that spilled out into this parking lot and out onto Pierce Street. Probably my estimation, there were between 200 and 400 students and faculty that came out that door as a result of teams finding people that were secreted in the school. Just a little bit about what I was equipped with, just your basic Remington 700 rifle. I had it was a Dan Dowling made rifle, 308 caliber with a Leopold 3.5x10 power. And with a Macmillan stock and a Hart barrel. It's pretty nice rifle, and if any of you are familiar with Dan Dowling's work, you know what I'm talking about. Because of my close proximity to the school and concern with field of view, and I had a large coverage area, my responsibility was from this door all the way to this side, which is probably 75 to 100 yards. I dialed completely down to 3.5 power to expand my field of view and enable me to gain as much intelligence as I could. But we had another concern because of the office and the hostage information we had that occurred here. This is where the office is, and that's where my side was, that that the bad guys may pop out at any time out that main entrance there and, do a suicide by cop or whatever. And so that was a concern, something I needed to be concerned with from my position. I was laying underneath about a 76 white Ford 4x4 pickup truck, protected by the elements if it were to rain. Helicopters flying above that were televising all the SWAT officers and their positions. Probably never saw me. This sniper back here with Lakewood PD, he was never aware of my position, which is, which is nice. I mean, we don't really want to know. I mean, we want to come in silent and leave silently. We don't want people to know where we are. And so kind of a compliment to say, I didn't know you were there. So, but I was there for about 4 hours laying underneath that truck, prepared to do what we had to do. Okay. Okay, Bill, that's about all I had. I'll turn it back over to Lieutenant Black, let him finish up. And I think at the end, we'll have some time for any questions. And privately, if we're having a beer over dinner, whatever, I'm available to answer any questions you might have.
Most of the SWAT teams shows on your timeline here, 1240, the rest of the entire SWAT team deployed. As I said, they were coming in 1, 2, 3 officers at a time. 1246, Sean was fully deployed. 1248, Jefferson County SWAT team arrived. They deployed at 1253, their entire team. As I said, they were like us. They had individuals that had gotten there early, and we deployed them as we could, but their entire team was deployed at 1253, along with the Lakewood SWAT team. Our second sniper deployed about 10 minutes after Sean got on scene. Sean talked about the problem with the news media helicopter, and we have a little taste of that right now.
Get that information. For suspect approved. Get that helicopter out of here. Hear the radio. Okay. Sure about that. Going down there here. You know what you want suspect name description. We'll shortly. I want to look at it now. Suspect last name Eric. First name is Eric. Here. Starting name is what? Second suspect. First name is Dylan. So it's in here, right? First name is right now, one there. One three. That's a red apple. He's a shooter. Is a front. We know that. We also had 9% of the long rifle. Up here, they got moving on the road. Hold on, however. You know, we've been trying to get that up.
You said, how about 158 grain bullet? He was off about 10 grains, but you know his heart's in the right place. We just recently got a police dedicated helicopter in the Denver metro area that belongs to the Denver Police Department. Unfortunately, it was down that day. And we've had news media assist in certain police shootings and things, so they feel that it's their responsibility to assist the police department, and they've done a very good job in some situations, but it became a little bit of a problem in this instance right here. We had the report of 4 people involved. The other 2, and particularly the one that was identified as a shooter, were never identified as being active in this problem. They were just part of that trench coat mafia. Kind of an interesting little highlight. One of the fire chiefs who had been at the fire academy working in the burn building showed up to assist in landing the medical helicopters. And he was wearing his bunker gear. Colorado, most of the departments have yellow bunker gear, but this one was all black and very gritty. So he's standing out in the middle of the field, and some police officers, they weren't from my agency, saw him out there, thought he was part of the trench coat mafia, and proned him out and arrested him. So I'll give you his name if you have any fire department friends and other agencies who'd like to give him a call. We had a report of a teacher and 8 students down in the cafeteria area. This proved to be incorrect. This was just many reports of people being down, and we searched for them, couldn't find them. We had the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Department SWAT team when they finally deployed at 1315. We had them provide security at the triage areas because they were fairly close to the school. We had information that the suspects, and we got this from other students, were going to try to blend in with the other students and escape the area. If you can remember one of the classic SWAT calls, Princess Gate in London, where that same tactic was used. And we had information this would occur. We tried to treat everybody who exited that school as a suspect, but this became somewhat of a problem. It really ate up a lot of manpower. What you saw in the videos was a lot of cops standing around barriers and cars and students running out with their hands up. And the media made a big thing like, you know, the cops were standing out waiting, having these kids come out. What they didn't tell you is we had teams inside pulling those kids out of rooms, pockets of kids here and there. They were directing them, taking them out safely. They were handing them off to other SWAT teams. The school district transportation office was absolutely wonderful. I wish my team could deploy as fast as these people did. They had all their school buses there. Somebody showed up, stood straight and tall and said, "Can you use these buses?" And I said, "You damn right we can." We put a detective on the bus. When those kids came out and got to a semi-safe location, a bus picked them up after they had been searched. We took them to a location away from the news media where the detectives identified them, debriefed them quickly, and we were able to contain a lot of the students and get a lot of information as opposed to just letting them run amok. But that took a tremendous amount of manpower to be able to do that. But with 900 cops there, you know, we had enough. We had complete sniper cover around the school, and this was confirmed by all the different tactical commanders. I think Sean pointed out where they were, 8 different snipers from about 5 agencies. We did do one thing. One of our department snipers, and I said we're not a big department. We have 2 dedicated snipers. We pulled one of them off and put him inside the school. What we found out in the school is there was a need for those particular attributes that a bolt gun, a precision rifle has. 2 of the attributes that make a 30 caliber rifle so good, one of them is power and the other one is reach. And when I'm talking about reach, I'm talking about precision, being able to go at a greater distance that you normally would than with your MP5. So we had some long hallways and we put that guy in there and we had him cover those. This has proved to be a good tactic. Some of you guys may have used it. We always think of snipers being on the outside. Sometimes you got to bring them inside a facility. And you ought to be able to have equipment that supports that. If you've got some, and this is just my opinion, doesn't reflect the views of the management, you know, there's a time for those 20 power scopes, 16 power scopes, but having one that had 3.5 power with a short barrel that you can move around inside a school, there's a reason that you have rifles like that. And it turned out to be pretty good. And he was very effective in there, gave a lot of confidence to the tactical teams that they had that precision rifle capability inside the school. We got pictures of the suspects fairly early on. We got those out of the yearbook. And then about 1416, Jefferson County Dispatch advises that students are doing CPR on a wounded subject in the finance room.
The county got me clear. You're still on the phone with one of the kids on a cell phone. You're trying to get through to let the people know that CPR did progress on the subject and they were able to revive them. I mean, they can hear the tape, but after they just want you to relay that to you. If you have my end, I'll get you through that for you. Go ahead, Doctor. Right, put this out in here, so it's call us on cell phone or anything of the. But you know, this party is in the finance room, on the second floor, south corner, right? The coffee.
All right, so we're back. Where's that first step? Go ahead, that's start yelling.
Coffee camera. The side door to that room where the kid is at, have a red, white, blue shirt on the outside of it. There's a red, white, blue shirt tied to the door on the outside. Let me know if you want to start screaming. In fact, when you get hold of these calls, what stuff is your phone?
Real helpful, right? Or outside, I've been doing a special here's a location where the people might be stuck.
Okay, yeah, right. What's the marker?
Go ahead.
The fight out about the building at the main office. Is that Simon?
I got that.
Okay, yeah, right.
A lot of confusion going on, okay? Officers went, got there as quick as they could, checked the area, it wasn't there. There was a teacher who during this incident was shot, very heroic, helping a lot of students out. And when I went in afterwards, he was located right here. The teams searched this area, came up here. Okay, this is the science area. I'm not making excuses because I don't know, but there was blood trail around this area, I understand, and it was very difficult for the teams to locate that person for whatever reason. And I'm sure it will all come out in court somehow because his daughter is suing everybody who happened to be there. But he was located right here, and he just bled to death. And it's a very unfortunate situation. But the teams were looking in the finance area. I think that's who it was. There was other teams that were actively involved. When I give my presentation, I don't want you to think that Littleton Police Department was doing all this other stuff and everybody was standing around picking their nose waiting for it to bleed. That's not the case. We had other teams, Denver Police Department, Jefferson County Police Department, Lakewood Police Department, Arapahoe County Sheriff's Department, that were all in areas of the school actively involved in searching for students. We put that as a high priority. And so I'm sure their radio traffic was every bit as confusing and probably as frantic as ours is as we started searching for people. At about 14:39, students on the phone inside the school report shots fired. Officers fired breaching rounds at some of the doors to get in. None were fired from my department. There was some cover and suppressive fire given at Columbine. None was fired from my department. Police fired a total of 144 rounds. There was a lot made about the autopsies. You're going to have to talk to the Jefferson County's investigators about that. But what we have been told, everybody in Colorado who's gone to the briefings, is there were no police bullets found in any of the bodies of the students. Thank God. 1457, Lakewood Police Department's radios go totally down. 1502, the FBI SWAT team arrives. Okay. Actually, they were instrumental in helping search, secure the perimeter, and particularly investigation. Nobody does it better. Teams on the scene report that the lower level and the northwest wing of the school is clear. 1517, an armored personnel carrier arrives. I don't know who this guy was, National Guard, whatever, or he just broke into some armory and got one, but he comes cruising down the street with this. It never was a factor, you know. In my opinion, I'm such a skeptic. Most of this shit never is a factor. You know, it looks good, but unless it's driving around the neighborhood at the time that this stuff goes down, by the time you get it and drive it and get it there, it wasn't a factor. And I'm talking out of school for you teams that have had successful encounters with them, but usually when that stuff is that you depend on, it's never there. That's, I guess, one of those Murphy's rules. And at this time, 1517, the rescues of the students really start to accelerate. Our team has cleared all this area, cleared this area, and they're now basically in this science area.
searching and searching to get out here. Looking around with the ball and flies. Okay, the suspects you have on it, know what time. Okay, no.
He just said copy 20 suspects may have grenades on them. 22.
And the Parker. Yeah, I want. Go ahead, Julie. Yeah, come out on this side, stand up every report, don't take, if they have explosive potential. If you open this side first, if they find something on them, we're gonna have to deal with it in there. From that, so they said, looks like the suspect's down. We got a library, it looks like. Great. Right, no, yeah, two suspects in the library, self-injured, weapons, what else? Got one big there, man. They still have one, the two suspects unaccounted for. A couple hallways right now, 10% of the people in the library. We're still pulling people in the room every now and then, they just pull out. What's your work out there now? I copy, you need anything? Now we got a team gonna take their bags over to the library and see what they can do over there. We're finding that out. Hey, Parker, everybody in the library is gonna be bad. Yeah. Information that the library is gonna be bad on injury scandals. Yeah, we already got that. We got figured it out.
And he was right. It was bad. Everybody in there was DRT, dead right there. You know, you guys, we're all in the same business. We've seen a lot of dead bodies, but seeing that many in one location was pretty difficult. The teams did that search, and basically there was no other suspects, no other casualties after they cleared the library. Both floors of the school were cleared by about 1600. It was declared clear by Jefferson County, Denver Police Department, Littleton Police Department, Lakewood Police Department, Arapahoe County SWAT teams. We cleared the scene about 1730. And what we did at that point, command post talked it over, and at that point we called in 5 additional SWAT teams. And if I forget one, I'm sorry. I think we had Boulder Police Department, Boulder Sheriff's Department, the Thornton North Glen, which is a combined tactical team, very fine team from Commerce City Police Department and the Adams County Sheriff's Department. And our thinking is that we needed to get the EOD people in there. These SWAT teams were spent. They spent quite a few hours in the school, very stressful situation. As I said, it was like going through a minefield. They'd all kind of ended up right here in the library where all the casualties were. And we still had a feeling that there might be somebody else in there that had hidden in the ceiling or whatever. So we wanted to get 5 fresh teams in there to do a very thorough covert search along with the EOD people, and that's what we did. And it finished up about 11:30 or 12 o'clock that night. And then the crime scene investigation began. As I said, teams rescued a lot of kids. We estimate that our team did anywhere from 200 to 500 kids that we brought out of the school in different pockets. In the days and weeks that have followed, there was over 10,000 pieces of evidence, 100,000 photos. Jefferson County has 200 3-inch binders, and there was over $1.5 million in damage of Columbine High School. And as you all know, the damage is not just the monetary damage. You know, there's damage to the operators that were there. There's damage to the community. I think the other guys from Fort Collins and Longmont, Wheat Ridge that are here from Colorado departments can attest. There's not a day that goes by that they don't have something in the newspaper, something on the TVs about this. So even if you want to try and forget about this, they're not going to let you. Right after this incident, you know, everybody was hugging everybody, and we had the president and the vice president and Janet Reno and all the people coming, and we're hugging each other, saying how great everything was. Well, we're way past that hugging stage now. Okay, now everybody's pointing fingers or trying to. I was very proud to be able to work with those other teams. There was some extremely heroic things that were done by all of the SWAT officers there, as well as patrol officers. There's probably not a day or a week that goes by that I don't get a call simply because my city is Littleton and people equate Columbine with Littleton, even though it was in Jefferson County, that I don't get a call from someplace in the country or someplace in the world, and they want to know how their SWAT team can respond to a Columbine situation. The only advice that I can give them is that, and this is from my perspective, is that take a little of that money that you spend on all that high-tech, high-speed, low-drag stuff you give to the SWAT teams and share it with your patrol officers. Because these are the ones that are going to make or break one of these calls. Unless you have a SWAT team circling over the school with a helicopter when one of these things go down, you have got to have patrol officers that, one, are equipped with things that they can respond to a situation like this. My own personal feeling is you got to give them rifles, not these little wimpy-ass pistol caliber carbines. You got to give them some protective gear. That's those ballistic helmets. You got to give them some shields they can move around in. And you know what? We as supervisors, we got to give them the ability, your first-line supervisors on the street, to be able to make those decisions. Because everybody's hindsight is 20/20. And you can have all the chiefs and commanders and sheriffs and majors and whatever you got, pick them apart when some sergeant says, we got an active shooter in there, let me get you, and you, and let's go in and let's deal with it. Okay? That's the level that your active shooter training has got to come from. It's got to come from the patrol. SWAT was very helpful in this, okay? But you got to spread some of that wealth into your patrol officers. Because, you know, most of us, that's where we came from. That's where we earned our bones to become SWAT officers, was working on the street. And yeah, we've got all this training and stuff like that. Take it to your patrol officers, particularly you guys who are on part-time teams. You're not an elite unit. You're not separated from them. You come from those people. So teach them and train them. And as supervisors, give them the ability to make those decisions on the street. Right or wrong, they're going with the information that they've got at the time, and they're going to make the best decision they can. I'm not saying we shit-can SWAT teams, okay? I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, what are we going to do in our departments for that first 30 minutes while the SWAT team gets all their stuff and arrives? Because most of the departments are the size of my department. You don't have a full-time team, and you got to wait for everybody to gear up. Who's going to handle that situation? Because really, if you look at what the speculation is, Harris and Klebold were dead before a full team got activated, okay? We put together people, and they just happened to be SWAT-trained officers that went in there. And you can argue, they're still going to argue, I'll be arguing in court, whether or not it made a decision, or whether it helped this situation, whether it caused Harris and Klebold to prematurely execute themselves, I don't know. Can't tell. That's just speculation. All I know is what I know. And all you're getting is from the Littleton Police Department. If you want to find out what Denver did, talk to Denver. If you want to find out what Jefferson County did, talk to Jefferson County. I have some information because they were able to share that with me. But you know what? All I'm giving you is my piece of the elephant. I thank you. I'd like to open it up to questions. Like I say, I don't have any problem. I know we're getting real close to happy hour here, but if anybody has any questions, you, sir.
Yes, sir. I was wondering, is any of the blame being shifted to the parents, or are they keeping it on video games and movies?
Well, that's a bigger question. You can ask that about society. He wanted to know if any blame is being shifted to the parents.
I mean by the courts.
By the courts, you know, in our day and age, I don't know. I think the police are just going to kind of get it in the rump the whole time.
Has your department shifted any of its policies, like you were talking about at the end, towards active shooter policies, or spreading some of that knowledge, training, and wealth of the patrol force?
Yeah, I don't want to blow my own horn. My department's a 70-man department. It's not a big department. We've got a 18-officer SWAT team. Excuse me if I'm politically incorrect. We have 6 negotiators and we got 12 tactical guys. I am lucky that I have a department that decided that for special operations, and there's a lot of different things, that they want to have people who are tactically trained. They give us the time to train. They give us the money. We have always had a philosophy that works for us. I don't know if it's going to work for you guys, when we call SWAT on patrol. And that is we don't try to keep that stuff locked up. We have all the supervisors' cars and all the patrol officers' cars equipped with equipment that we can use on the street. Now, we're not going to have all of our stuff, but we have enough gas, we have enough less lethal options, we have protective equipment, and we have probably over 3/4 of the officers who carry rifles in our department, okay? All you have to do is look at North Hollywood and see how important rifles are to patrol teams. Yes, sir, you in the back. Yeah. It's pretty funny, and I don't want to downplay this post-critical incident trauma stuff like that. But about 4:30 in the afternoon, and I'm briefing these teams. I went in right after the teams said it was clear. I went in, walked through there because I was going to have to brief the new secondary teams and the EOD guys when they were going to go in, and I had to tell them, you know, this is what I saw, this is what you got to be careful. But I'm standing there and I just finished briefing the secondary teams that came up there, and I see these 4 little attractive ladies standing there in front of me like this. And I'm talking to them and I'm going, who are you? And she says, we're your grief counselors. And I said, oh, okay, I appreciate it. Can you wait over there? Okay. My grief hasn't arrived yet, and as soon as it does, you guys will be the first to know. But it did. It did for all the teams. We took the team back. You know, it was such a stressful deal. What I did is I said, you know, you guys have been through a lot. What you need to do is get away from this police department. Everybody is ordered to go home. Your shifts will be filled. You need to go home, you know, hug your wives, kiss your kids, do whatever, spend some family time, try to get away from this. It's going to be hard. I will make sure that no media contacts you. I won't have anybody do an interview. And then tomorrow we'll get back together and we'll talk about this, because we had a SWAT day coming up, I think, in a day or so after that. And we'll get together and we'll debrief this and we'll talk about what we did. Okay, get a few steps away from it, and that's when we debriefed it. Worked pretty good. Other teams pretty much did the same thing. They had grief counselors assigned to them. Of course, you know, if you look at the news media, the entire state of Colorado is all screwed up mentally over this thing. Okay, I mean, we got rid of a good concealed weapons bill we were about to pass. We got rid of everything. Anybody who's got a gun there is, you know, it's bad juju. You can't hunt. They want to keep you from doing, you know, what the Constitution says you're supposed to be able to do. This is just my opinion. Doesn't reflect the views of the management. But, you know, there was a lot of problems, and some people got through it okay. You know, most of the SWAT guys, you really don't have to worry about it. Most of the guys talk to each other. Those that did have a problem, we tried to identify it and got them hooked up with somebody who, first of all, knew about SWAT operations, and second of all, could give them some good, trained post-critical incident trauma debriefing. Yes, sir.
when later on in the afternoon, when there was 14:39, you said there was additional shot, kids called the shot. Appears to be guys shooting blocks open doors, suppression fire. You in the command post, did you know that was going on when that was going on?
No.
You thought it was still active shooting.
Yeah. Later on, we found out that some of the teams were going in, and they were also breaking windows. It was a typical school where you have a door that's pretty secure, but it's got one of those glass windows that's reinforced. So they were breaking those so they could get in. And I'm sure kids from a certain location of the school would find that to sound very much like gunfire going on. But no, we didn't always know.
Even with the suppression fire, they weren't telling their own people back at your command post.
That may have gotten back to somebody. It didn't get back to me. I knew of one instance right in the beginning where some suppression fire was used because one of my officers reported it in his report right after the incident. You, sir, in the back.
There was about 20 minutes went by before they ordered out any watch personnel. Is that normal after there's been people getting?
Well, the deal was it came with a everybody in the state of Colorado to show up, basically what it was. Okay. And most of the teams, the way we work is when we do a mutual aid, we send somebody over there and say, what do you need? Because if we sent a team out every time somebody called for help, okay, we'd be deploying them all the time and it wouldn't be effective because sometimes they don't even need a team. And so that's what that one sergeant who was now Lieutenant Sergeant Parker did. He was very close. It's only 2 miles away from Lufton. He got there. One of our negotiators got there quicker, and she said, yeah, they want the SWAT team right away. And we're not going to go in someplace unless they ask us. And we try to respond within 30 minutes of when we get a call, but for whatever reason, it took, I think it's more like 15 minutes by the time that the request made, and we had officers on scene who were actually trying to go in.
The first guy to engage the gunman.
Yes.
Did he request backup?
I haven't listened to their radio tape. I have no knowledge of them calling for their SWAT team, although their lieutenant, Lieutenant Manwaring, responded to the location, and that would have been his responsibility. Yes, sir. No. Don't have an time. You're going to have to talk the speculation. Everybody, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but everybody's thinking it's around 12:05. That's what we've heard.
The canine explored.
We had some canine officers there. We don't have canine in my team. The team we work with, which is Lakewood Police Department, we use them for canine support. They brought some canine, but they never became a factor. I don't know if, and I'm just speculating, I don't know if it was reluctance to bring him in there in that type of environment. I'm not a canine guy. My approach to dogs is you just get the meanest one you can, slap him on the ass and throw him inside and lock the door. Then go in and shoot him and see what's left. But I'm not an animal hater. I mean, but that's kind of my approach to canines. I think they're great. They just didn't become much of a factor. Yes.
You know if any consideration was given to having air traffic control through airspace over?
Yeah, we did that real early on. We closed airspace, but I don't know what the fine is, but these guys, to get some real good footage, they don't care. Okay, they'll be grounded. They'll do whatever they want to. What actually had occurred is one of the tactical teams had requested one of those news cameras to set down. They got some tactical guys in it, and that's who was flying over. The problem is that wasn't shared with everyone, and so we didn't know that. If you prepare for something like that, it's a lot easier. And we didn't know that, so guys thought one of the helicopters was just flying around trying to get some footage, but they were checking the roof and they had a tactical guy in it, but that information wasn't really shared, and I didn't get it till much later. Yes, sir.
Is the whole debriefing idea pretty much dead in the water?
I am not the host agency. Jefferson County Sheriff's Department is. We're hoping and praying that that occurred. But as time goes by, people get a lot of hard bark on them. And it's hard to be less than candid in some of your responses. So I don't know. We'll see. You, sir.
Since the incident had you dealt with these, locked out, you got locked out, because I know a lot of school boards are going through that right now.
Yeah, there's all sorts of
What's your opinion?
approach. My opinion is they should have armed the damn teachers. I think one of the greatest things in the world is, Clint Eastwood goes into that bar and kills little Bill in Unforgiven. Said, "You just shot him. He's an unarmed man." Well, he should have armed himself. I know that is not politically correct. I will probably be pushing a patrol car next week if this gets out. But that is not a proposal that a lot of people want to hear. It's just that we got to be real careful about SWAT teams jumping to the conclusion about active shooters and sending people inside in an area where they're kind of going off half-cocked sometimes. We didn't realize that this was an active shooter situation. I tried to portray that we thought it was a hot situation. And I don't want to get every team, just like right after the 80 Olympics, everybody and their mother was doing dynamic entries. Okay, because why? They did it for the Olympics. Okay, which most of us, our bread and butter is what? Covert entries. Okay, and I would hate to see all SWAT teams jump to active shooter situations. We've done some practicing in active shooters. First of all, at a big school like that, if shooting's going on and the suspects are mobile, from outside, it's very difficult to pinpoint where they are. You're just running around looking. Second of all, those alarms were going off the entire time. You could not hear anything. So, every school district is coming up with those things that make them feel good. But you can look at some of these other school shooting situations. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was Jonesboro that the kids waited outside, hit the alarm, and everybody came outside and they shot them outside. So that sort of shit cans, all these perimeters and things like that. Okay. I think it's a problem that we get to that somebody brought up about parents. Okay. I think that's where the prevention is. That's where the money ought to be spent. Raise your kids good. Sir.
Yeah, initially you had manpower.
Yes.
You ever able to finally get that thing coordinated? So,
yeah, Lieutenant Walter from Jefferson County Sheriff's Department, everything kind of fluctuated to his command vehicle. Perimeter is, in my opinion, one of the most important things and one of the hardest things for us to do in critical incidents, to get one set up. It was real critical there. I would like to have had it set up quicker. I would like to have spent a little more time getting a secure perimeter before we went in, but then now we're taking a lot of heat because we should have gone in and said the hell with the perimeter. I don't know if too many cops are going to be able to walk past some kid that's been shot, that's laying on the ground, that might still be alive, and go in to get the shooter. I know that that's kind of what the focus is on some of the active shooter stuff. And, that's going to be a tactic. Sometime you're going to say, do I go past this guy to keep other killing from stopping, or do I pick this person up and rescue him? It's going to be a real hard decision for a police officer to make, and it's one that every one of us is going to have to decide. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Once the perimeter was in place, how effective was it at keeping media ahead from parents?
Actually, it was pretty effective. It's pretty effective. The one thing, as Josh was talking about chem biohazards and weapons of mass destruction, there's nothing like a sarin attack to give you a good perimeter. Okay? Nobody wants to go in there. Okay? As soon as they found out there was a lot of explosives, the local news media person wasn't real anxious to run up to that school. So that was kind of in our favor. Yeah, we had a pretty good perimeter set up. It was really hard managing all the cops, frankly. Sure.
Was there any evidence that these kids had been practicing with the firearms extensively or had been tested there?
Yeah, I don't know if you followed it. One of the They had shot, they were familiar with the weapons. They had practiced reloading. One of the guys who sold them one of the guns had just been sentenced to 6 years. Is that what it is, John? 6 years in prison, and they got another one coming up. And so, yeah, these guys knew what they wanted. One of the stories that I heard was that their parents were taking out the trash one day and saw the barrel of that Model 37 pump Ithaca shotgun in the trash as they took it out. You'd think, wait a minute.
Blow it off.
Yeah.
I noticed when I was watching it on TV that with the news helicopters flying around, if either of these two idiots had said, glanced at the TV, they would have known where everybody was. Is there any dialogue now between the local police departments and the news media as to what to show and not to show, so as not to put the officers in danger?
Not really. I don't think that's a argument you're going to have with the news media. If they can take a picture of it and put it on TV, they're going to do it. My big concern, and I think the other officers were, that we didn't know what these guys were armed with early on. We figured explosives, a lot of casualties. You know, it doesn't take a whole lot to shoot down a helicopter, okay? And one of those guys comes out there and starts whacking away at one of those news helicopters, you know, and that thing auto rotates down on top of the SWAT teams or kids that are trying to come out. I think we'd have had a real problem. Helicopter crashes are not real pretty. Anybody have any other questions? Like I said, I'm available. I got to leave tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to be around tonight, going to be hanging out tomorrow. Yes, sir.
So you're talking about the fire alarm system. Were you ever able to figure out after the fact if this should happen again in a large building, how to turn those things off?
I haven't, but the school has. They haven't shared it with Jefferson County Schools is going to take care of that. Our school district, which is the Littleton Public Schools, has addressed that problem. The one good thing about it, as you remarked about what are schools doing, is things like that are being addressed by good school security people by saying, hey, we better figure out a way that we can shut this thing off. Because what we had to do is we had to wait till this was over with, and there was one guy with one key who had to go to a certain box. He was the guy, you know, that was his empire. He was the one who turned that thing off when it went on. And
Taking the boxes inside.
you bet. You bet. Anything else? Okay. I'm available for any questions anytime. Please, if you, I'll give you a phone number. If you got something, want to give me a call at work. Phone number is area code 303 795 3883 3883 795 3883. Area code 303. Be happy to talk with you. If you want to come up and say it was, you know, things should have been done better, I will be the first to agree. I don't think any of us can say our situations weren't great. I would love to have been able to tell my dispatcher when she called me that I'd fallen and broken my ankle and I couldn't respond. But that's not the case. And we have to, you know, go with what we got. And that's what we did. Well, you know, I'll be the first to say we made some mistakes. You guys hopefully have seen some things that you would do different. And that's why we debrief this stuff, so we can find out how we do this stuff different in the future. I thank you for your attention, and be safe. Sure.